Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, and I'm joined by two of my favorite people. We're going to talk about intuition, how the cards read it, and how the numbers read it. So you're going to get it from three different angles today. It's going to be very exciting. So Janine Morgeau, Tarot by Janine, and Tom Numbers. So we're gonna go deep today. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, Michael. How are you doing, Janine?
Oh,
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So the last show we did was very popular because you guys know that I'm always getting knocked down, but that was an extremely popular show, even my new little channel. So people are hungry for this information. So it's really good, you know, that we're revealing a lot of this stuff because we can go. I don't know where this is going to go because we just kind of get together and we chat. Some people might think that we have like this master plan. We come in and share this information after we talked about it, but no, we just kind of like, oh, this is what we're going to cover and let's see where it goes.
Yeah,
so that's where I go. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like it that way. I like it that way.
Yeah, so spontaneous. Let it fly. Let it fly. How was your trip, Michael? I would just say quickly. This last week has been a great week, but very busy. I launched my new channel, the Tom Numbers Show, and I did an episode with Michael Gambon, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, so the wizard. A couple of soccer players, Matt Letitia, who's a Patriot, Gus Poirier, Sven-Goran Eriksson. But it's been very busy, but a lot of fun. And I've noticed a few football things and a few things kind of celebrity-wise that I always like to ask Janine, and she always kind of nails it whenever I have a hunch. She always gets it. So it'd be fun to go through some of those. Yeah,
that sounds good. And Janine, I know you started some new talks too. Want to talk about a little about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing some really just organic chats. I call them chats. I had Dr. Northrup on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really fun because both of us really like each other. Her and I have apparently she really likes my work, but I've been very, very much admiring her work for many years.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a beautiful soul.
Yep. Yeah, she's pretty cool. So it was really fun to have her on. And then I did Ashley, a little chat with Ashley, because a lot of people, they see her on Deep Dive, but they don't really know much about her. So I thought it'd be fun to get to know Ashley a little bit. I'm actually going to have yourself on, Michael.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I think that's next week. It's sometime in April. I'll have to check this calendar, but I'm pretty sure. And Tom I've had Tom on as a guest, so later we'll get Tom.
I'll get you on my show, Janine. I'll get you on my
on your new one.
Show. Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of swapping around and lots of chatting and getting to know these wonderful truthers that are out there doing such good work. Just people I admire.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, we're all starting our new channels. I started a new pay channel, and I get tired of getting taken down. This is my 8th channel here. Yeah. So just started my own channel, and it's got a Facebook in it, and eventually I'm gonna make a YouTube in it. So it's gonna be really fun.
Right on.
So let's jump into the conversation today. So Tom and I talked about, and I think we might have mentioned it last time with you, Janine, how it would be interesting to look at Putin and see if he is Alexander the Great reincarnated. And so I have a little backstory on that. We were kind of discussing that before the show. I think people will find it very interesting. We can look at that too by the numbers or by the cards.
Yep.
So I've been identified, and I have a very close association with being Cyrus the Great in a past life. So Cyrus the Great, if I told you all the different things that relate to all the different lifetimes, you'd be like, oh yeah, totally. But I'm not going to go into deep that because we're going to talk about Alexander the Great. So Cyrus the Great had a son, Cambyses. Cambyses I identified as an incarnation of Alexander the Great. So I've had many lifetimes with Alexander the Great because he's one of my soul brothers. So when you incarnate initially, you incarnate with the soul family. So he's one of my soul families, members of my soul family. And so that's been identified and so forth. But Cambyses. So Cambyses is very interesting. So he goes to Egypt and conquers Egypt. So there's like a seer, kind of like the seer of Delphi. So this seer would basically identify who the pharaoh was, and if she didn't say yes, this person is qualified to be pharaoh, meaning that he has communication with God. If she didn't say that, then that person would be pharaoh. So Cambyses comes in, conquers Egypt, and he said, "I'm the next pharaoh." And the oracle of Siwa is like, "No, you're not, because you don't have communication with, you're not good."
Yeah.
And what he did is he killed an Apis bull, which at the time was very sacred to the Egyptians in their religion.
Mhm.
So he killed it with a sword that he had that was scabbarded on his side, on his leg. So he took it out and stabbed the bull. The bull dies. So yeah, the oracle of Siwa was like, "No, you're definitely not, pharaoh material." So Cambyses sends his army across the desert to go to punish her and to make her say that he's the pharaoh. They get lost in the desert in a snowstorm, of course, sandstorm. So history says, no, that didn't happen. It never happened. So I had memories of this lifetime as Cyrus the Great and Cambyses being my son. So I talked about it. Soon after I talked about it, like we talked about Richard III, soon after I talked about it, they found Cambyses' army in the desert. They had matching, from that time frame, weaponry and what they were wearing, all kind of crazy stuff. So let's look at the card, Janine, and see what we see about that.
So do you think they're trying to discredit what you said there?
No, it's basically when I said it, they found it. So if you go look it up, it's actually, it's in the news. So I pulled it up again. It's in CBS News. Vanished Persian army said found in desert. Cambyses' army that vanished 2,500 years ago found. Bones, jewelry, and weapons found in the Egyptian desert match that period.
Wow.
So pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool. Okay. So what are we asking exactly?
If that is the case, if that was Cambyses' army, that'd be kind of cool if that is. So that'll.
Oh, we don't even have to go any further. This is an army card, and this is a yes. Totally wild. Wow. Oh, and there's the past. So a yes again. And the 3 of Cups. So that's interesting. I wonder if they got led away by, I almost get the feeling of, the sailors who would be led away by those singing energetic mermaids that actually not necessarily good. They would lead them
the sirens, yeah.
I almost think
and lead them into like they were like, because Ulysses talked about that. Ulysses left the Trojan War and was gone for like 9 years, trying to get back home. And the sirens would lure sailors to the rocks and they'd be destroyed. So that's kind of what happened with them.
Yeah, it's like they got destroyed by a feminine energy that first appeared like a siren.
Wow. So she called in a storm on them.
Yeah. So she sent in some kind of illusion maybe and led them astray.
They got lost in the desert. Yeah. And they perished there. Interesting.
Yeah.
So wow. That's incredible. Tom, you got anything numbers on that?
Yeah. So how do you spell Cyrus? Is it S-I-R-U-S?
So we mean
S-Y-R-U-S.
Say again. Sorry, Michael.
Let me pull it back up just to make sure. C-Y-R-U-S.
Oh, okay. Cyrus. Okay. So let me have a quick look then, because I spelt it the other way. C-Y-R-U-S. It doesn't matter. They come out exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So Cyrus, S-I-R-U-S, comes to 86, and Cyrus, C-Y-R-U-S, comes to 86, so it doesn't matter. So are you saying then, Michael, that you're Cyrus the Great, or he was someone closely connected to you?
No, that I was Cyrus the Great.
Okay. So that comes to 170. Comes to Bolt of Lightning. Back to the Future, Bolt of Lightning. Janine, can we ask a question connected to that? Is there any connection with Cyrus the Great and Matt Letizia, the soccer player I've done the episode with? I've got another one with him coming up that is going to be magnificent, that's getting released. So I'm just wondering if there's any connection.
Well, if there is, it wants to stay hidden.
Okay.
Because that says like working over here. We're working over here, and that information will stay hidden.
Okay.
So while we're a bit like, you might discover something later. That's kind of how I would read that. And then
Okay.
this 9. So a 9 of this could take a while, like for that to come out if there's any relation. And I don't know why they don't want to say. So that's
Okay.
kind of weird. So why did you ask that? What was your thought?
Because so the numbers on Cyrus the Great equals 170, but the numbers on Matt Letizia also equals 170. And he's a soccer player. He's retired now, but he was a legendary artistic soccer player. He was, very graceful. He was like a Picasso playing football. But if you do football artist, that also comes to 170. So it was interesting because I've just done another show with Matt, and so I knew that number. So I just wondered. So that's interesting what the cards are saying there. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. So continuing on with the story. So Cambyses, so he lost his army in the desert. So he's, distraught about that. He's not the Pharaoh. He's not recognized as the Pharaoh. He's starting to feel some pressure. There's some back home in Persia. There's someone that's threatening the empire. So he gathers up his leftover army, and he starts to head back. So he gets a little further. He gets away from Egypt, and he's jumping on his horse, and his scabbard breaks free. The same sword that he used to kill the Apis bull breaks free from the scabbard, cuts his leg. His leg gets infected, and he dies from the infection.
Wow.
All right. So now let's fast forward to Alexander the Great. So many centuries later, Alexander the Great comes in. So Alexander the Great conquers Persia, conquers Iran, Persia. Then he goes down to Egypt, conquers Egypt. And then instead of sending an army, he leads the army across the desert to the Siwa oasis. And he meets with the oracle of Siwa. And she says, I've been waiting on you. You're the Pharaoh. Wow. So he basically did full circle. He recognized the Egyptian gods and goddesses, because they changed throughout time. We worship all kinds of crazy stuff, throughout time. If we go back, before we came to Earth, we were worshiping on other planetary spheres in our galaxy, but in another, solar realm. Like if we look at the Lyrans, because
Cat people.
Yeah, the Lyrans, cat people, bird people, the Lyrans and the reptilians basically settled in our Milky Way galaxy first. And then from there, they spread out. So the Lyrans and the reptilians basically had a battle. The reptilians won. So the Lyrans basically went out and started to settle in other places in our solar system. So in our solar system, there's a group that is, in cahoots or worships, not worships, but is service to others.
Yeah.
And then there's a group that's service to self.
Yeah.
So the reptilians are service to self, and the Lyrans are service to others.
Yeah.
So we're still in this massive battle here on Earth. Earth is the last place for this battle in our solar system or in our Milky Way galaxy. Of course, there's billions of galaxies. They all have, different levels of consciousness. But the reptilians, this is the last stronghold for them here on Earth, and a lot of them are being sent away. So I know this was going to go like deep. So Janine, what do you say about the Lyrans and the reptilians? Because we see right now on Earth, there seems to be people that just don't seem to wake up. It's almost like they're in they like the Matrix. They like the reptilians. Maybe they're connected to them.
Interesting. So this is the reptilians. So they're holding on for dear life.
Mm-hmm.
And extremely, I'm feeling like their chakra levels are low. Like they only operate on the first 4 chakra levels. Like they don't really have that consciousness. Maybe that's why they like attaching to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Lyrians. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Lyrans.
Lyrans. So they were cast out from Earth. Okay, so they're feeling cast out, but this is temporary, and they view it as a temporary situation, and they're starting to look at how they could come back again, if that makes any sense. So they're sitting in a cast out place, but they're seriously from a distance and safely looking at, okay, so I think we could come back now, because these guys might be, like you said, they're getting the beat out of them. And I feel like the Lyrans are starting to think they might come back here. So
yeah.
that's
Back, and I think back as in charge, back in charge. So as consciousness rises, service to others.
Yeah.
The beautiful expression of love and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've often sort of all the wise old souls on the earth are somehow connected to them, or they're channeling them, or there's some kind of connection with the wise old souls here. So I think the people that we call truthers, the digital soldiers, the people watching videos like this, ourselves on videos like this, people that are awake and doing something about the situation. Because it's one thing to be awake to it, but to actually put some energy positively towards it, even if it's just rising the vibration in your family unit or where you are somehow or at work, just by being there in a positive way and knowing this stuff, that'll help. You know what I mean? So I feel like that connectedness, that's what I've been calling maybe the hermit card for all this time. I'm calling it this. Maybe it's connected to that bunch.
Yeah, very good. So when I say Lyrans, of course, the Lyrans spread out throughout, like we talked about, they warred against the Draco reptilians and didn't do well, and they spread out across the galaxy, and they started in other solar systems. Of course, we have the Pleiadians, we have the Arcturians. These are all Lyran, remnants that basically left. So here on Earth, we had Mars was occupied at one time, as well as this planet called Marduk. So they were occupied by Lyrans. So the reptilians basically sent in a planet size, which is Venus, a frozen planet, to basically cause a problem, and it destroyed Marduk. And that's the asteroid belt. Wow. It basically stripped away all the atmosphere and the water from Mars. It knocked Earth into the 3rd position. Ooh. It spun us. That's why we have it was just completely water covered, and it spun us around this basically bullet, this frozen bullet, and it caused the poles, so frozen water in the poles. So it revealed land masses. So wow. They sent a like a little spacecraft, which was the moon, the reptilians, the Draco, and it parked itself, and they offloaded and started to come into Earth and that's why we have reptilians and mammals. reptilians and mammals don't do well on Earth. So the reptilians, as we know, have done a real good job of basically enslaving Earth.
Mhm.
And we're reaching to a point where we're about ready to throw them off. You know, it's about because we're the last remnant
Good.
of, yeah, it's about because they burn Earth because they like less oxygen and they like
Yeah.
it hot.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is starting to change. So they're losing, like we talked about. That's good. So now let's fast forward to Putin. So
Okay.
we laid a foundation here, whether you believe it or not. It's like I know we really I stretched some people out here, but I think that's going to really start. We need to start waking up consciousness so we can win. All right. So if we know our history, if we know the history of who's trying to control us, then we can win.
Mhm.
So now we're at a point where we have possibly Alexander the Great back in Putin. So that's, Tom, did you have anything on the numbers on any of that crazy stuff I just talked about?
Yeah, so Milky Way is 119, which is Star Wars. It's Redemption,
Wow. Yep.
it's Foundation, but it's also Nikola Tesla. Galaxy is 70. So Milky Way Galaxy. Galaxy 70 is secret as well. But Milky Way Galaxy is 189. Actually comes to February 15th, which is my birthday. So I always recognize the 189s. But if you do the Milky Way Galaxy, it comes to 222, follow the twos. And Lyran is 70 as well, secret. Lyra is 56, which is light, which is also April, and that's the month that we're in now.
Ooh.
But it's interesting because I might have met a Lyran at one point, 222. But interesting, yeah. Yeah, I've got some. Yeah, we'll do Richard III after. But Putin. So the numbers on Vladimir. We'll see what Janine thinks with the cards. But Vladimir Putin, I think we said this before, hence the question. Comes to 168, which comes to New York City. But that does come to Alexander the Great. Hence my thinking it before. And
interesting.
Yeah. So let's have a look. See what the cards say.
So my spirit animal is a panther, and Janine. I remember when Janine and I first started talking, I saw that she had a painting of a panther too. Yeah, Black Panther. So
Yep.
Yeah.
The little Lyran connection there.
I love those panther energies.
Yeah, me too.
And they've been around me since I was little. So,
Mm.
right, with those weird dreams I used to have.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's definitely some kind of connection there.
Mm.
Okay, this is really interesting because this could be like a great figure in history that would be a ruler. Okay, but then this is a sibling card. So connected. So I wonder if he helped or co-ruled or was a sibling of, or is coming from the same family as that.
Mm.
Like, do you know if Alexander the Great had a sibling? And then we've got this card in the middle. So that could be like a co-ruler. That could even be twins and or people that work really closely together. And then we've got sibling card.
There's two Putins, isn't there? There's been at least two of them.
Yeah.
There's the one that we got now and the one that was kind of kicking around with Boris Yeltsin. They're two different people. I don't know if that, leads to a twin or a replacement or a change. I think Putin is, I think he's Space Force myself. That's what I think. But
yeah, that's very possible. So as far as like, the connection with birth and stuff like that. So a lot of us can incarnate with multiple people at the same time. So there's a percentage of earthlings that have, I think it's 6 to 8, maybe 9% at any one time are having multiple incarnations. So I've looked back through time and I've had multiple incarnations. So Alexander the Great could very well have multiple incarnations, which I think is highly likely and possible.
And maybe that's what we're getting here, because this is a great ruler.
Yeah.
It could have something to do with sharing the energy with some other energies too. A multiple soul.
Yeah.
Him being included. So he's co-creating that entity together with some other energies, which would kind of make sense because you get these really powerful rulers. Like them or not like them, you know what I mean? They've got a lot of charisma, and charisma might equal multiple energies coming together to create some kind of an attraction to others, or people to really stand up and pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they come in that form where they have a couple of different energies working together to create this personality.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because, we've talked about how I have a Space Force. Basically, my soul was copied and put into another me, a twin me, and then went into the Space Force. So possibly what you're talking about, Tom, is what happened with Putin, where, his being, his personality, or whatever, or his person here, either got taken out or they decided to pull it, and they brought in the Space Force, copy of him.
It's so interesting. Sorry.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways this could have happened. Maybe because I've kind of connected with some of the people that are copies of me, basically duplicates of me that are living the same life.
I knew I saw you down the shops, Michael.
There you go.
No,
so it could have been me. I don't know.
Could have been you. Could have been.
So I'm all over the place. So if you have that, if, like, for instance, because one of them is a female, if there's this other me person that's part of my soul, that's experiencing consciousness at the same time, they could have memories of Putin and say that they were. So we see that sometimes where multiple people say, yeah, I was that person. It could be because that particular soul has split itself and they're having a simultaneous incarnation. So when you see that something now, if you get like 100 people saying, yeah, it was Cleopatra, maybe not so much, but maybe they're just experiencing, they had they knew her, or they had experience with her, and it kind of rubbed off on them. And that's a possibility as well.
Yeah.
Or they could have actually gone in and the soul that was there decided to take a break or come out, and then another soul comes in. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff. You can't discount anything. You have to be very open-minded about all this stuff.
You said multiple, Janine and Michael. So multiple, I didn't know what the numbers were on it, but it's 108. Comes to the word Twilight, and it comes to the word Fitzgerald, which is JFK's middle name. Actually comes to Jack Edward Kidd, my buddy here in the UK, who's from an aristocratic family, but a truther. Leader of the Red Squirrels, hey Jack. But the reason it stands out to me is in the very beginning scene of the film Tenet, the Christopher Nolan film about time reversal and inversion. Inversion is 125, time travel is 125, dark to light is 125. They say in the very opening scene, they say we live in a twilight world, and he gets them to repeat it. He says we live in a twilight world. So it always stood out to me. But twilight is 108. So if you say we live in a multiple world, that totally concurs with what you've been saying there, Michael. Yeah. And then if you do souls is 86. So multiple souls comes to 194. 194 comes to September 11th. 194 comes to New Yorker Hotel, where Tesla lived on 8th Avenue. 8th Avenue is 125, time travel. And also 194 comes to 1955, which is the year that in Back to the Future, they go back to 1955. And talking of Back to the Future, if you say a multiple soul, so just a multiple soul, the singular of a multiple soul, that comes to 176, which is Back to the Future. And if you just do multiple soul, it comes to 175, which is consciousness, which is also Diana Frances Spencer, multiple soul, 175 consciousness. So could be the case, Michael. Yeah.
Interesting. These two cards were around the reading as well. And I've been sort of just opened up to channeling what that's about, because this is these are not very great cards, especially together. They're really nasty. And what I'm getting is that the bad guys, the dark cult or the deep state, and all those other words we can't use here, they do not want us talking about this. And they did not want humans to know how things really work. That's why they created the whole, the way they created Christianity. They probably took a lot of that stuff out of the Bible. If it was, I believe the Bible did have writings about other lifetimes, etc. But most really devout, say, for instance, Catholics, and I can only speak for that bunch because my parents are those types, right? They come from a really devout Catholicism. They don't believe in past lives, or they don't even talk about it. If they believe in it or not, I don't know. Individually, they might, but they certainly, it's not talked about. So I believe they repressed it by using organized religion and erasing it out of any of those kind of spiritual practices.
I'd agree with that.
I totally agree with that.
Accept that at all.
Absolute. If you really do the research, historical research, and you see the way things have been manipulated in the Bible and who wrote it, and especially the New Testament, you know, who wrote that? That was basically the Romans who wrote that. So when you start to see a lot of that stuff, of course, they still put truth in there. Put truth information in there. And that way, when people look at it, it's like, of course, that's true. And that's the way we should follow all of it. Ooh, that's not good. So you should always come into stuff with, you know, a certain amount of discernment. I mean, you guys are listening to all the crazy stuff, you know, we're putting out here. Just look at it with discernment. If it doesn't fit your religion, just be open-minded to it, you know, the possibility, because religions have come and gone, guys, many millions of years. If we look at the greater perspective of like what I'm talking about, we've come from other, you know, star systems. So just be open-minded.
Can we look at some of the stuff around King Richard III? I've got some. So this goes back to the first or second episode we ever did, Michael. And King Richard III, you talked about how they discovered him after you basically kind of declared you being King Richard III in another life. And then lo and behold, it happened in reality. And a trigger point from there was that Leicester City Football Club, a Premier League soccer club, won the Premier League in 2016 completely out of the blue. It should never have happened. It was ridiculous. They were the worst team in the league. They nearly got relegated. And then all of a sudden, next season, they win the Premier League. And it just shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy called Gary Lineker, who's a famous ex-footballer. He's the kind of face of the BBC, of BBC Football. And he's affiliated with Leicester City, and because he used to play for them. Now, there's been a few shows on after they show Match of the Day. They've been doing like a kind of 1 to 10 of the greatest players that won the Premier League, greatest teams, greatest goals. And I've been watching this the last couple of weeks. Gary Lineker has made deliberate reference to, and it's kind of validating a hunch I had, but I wanted to see what the cards say. Gary Lineker said it should never have happened, i.e. Leicester winning the Premier League. And he said it was magic. It was magic. And he's basically said it was magic. My question is, was it magic? And is Gary Lineker fully aware that it was magic?
Interesting points. Interesting. So good magic or manipulated, or like,
well, that's the question.
Once you open those doors, then things come out. And like we saw, I think it was good. And that was it sounds like that might have been another signal.
They might have played a trick on, so the bad guys didn't want them to win.
Okay.
It wasn't slated, and that wasn't in their playbook, but the good guys somehow stepped up and configured it. They worked together with some insiders. So they had insiders, like sort of plants, I want to say.
Wow.
Okay. But these guys were really mad about it. So the bad guys.
Wow. Okay.
So manipulation. So they like let them believe their little plan was going to work, kind of like what happened with Hillary. You know what I mean?
Right.
And right at the last minute, they switched it up on them.
And they let it go through. Wow.
And let it go through. Yeah. Somehow they had enough people placed, because it looks like they had a lot of help to do it. People that were posing maybe as the bad actors who would normally let something like that or help pull something like that off. But those guys were working with the other side. the good guys' side. So then the victory happened, but it made these guys, so the bad guys, really mad.
Wow. So is Gary Lineker, does he have full knowledge of that? Was he thinking it was going to be a bad trick, or is he confirming the good trick? Where's that kind of sitting?
What side is he on, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So another thing that we talk about too is Queen Elizabeth II is, descended from Henry VII, who basically took over once Richard III, he was basically illegitimate, king, but he took over anyway, a forced marriage, and that they gave him legitimacy. So she is descended from that. So we know this. All of us have talked about the story of how she's maybe not there anymore. So it sounds like, once this process starts, however it starts, because I'm like, a lot of times I'm not willing to this stuff, but when it happens, it happens. I was like, oh, I was part of this, and I'm revealing this. I don't know what this means, but here it is. And then boom, these things start to happen.
So this guy was in the dark about it and even disappointed, or he felt disappointed because he wasn't let in on it.
Huh.
He was in the dark. He knew about the bad guy plan, because this is in the past, and this would be a manipulation by what I call the dark cult. So it was a manipulation. Then when the thing happened, so it was good for somehow the humans or the good guys. I don't know how that would play in, but somehow the good guys manipulated it to happen totally different than the bad guys had planned. And then he started to see the goodness of it. So that's interesting. I wonder if it moved him over to seeing something he wasn't looking at, or he thought differently about it later, is what it says. Once he realized the magic trickery that went on, maybe he realized it was better that way somehow, because he looks like he's coming around to the other side through the whole situation.
Interesting, because he said that a few episodes ago, said it was magic, it should never happen. And then just the last show that I just saw, and actually in a player list of 1 to 10, Matt Letitia, the Truther Patriot, who's 170 football artist, I've done episodes with him. He was one of the legendary players, so he was mentioned in this list on the most recent show. But again, Gary Lineker said in that show about something else. He said you could, like cast a magic spell on the pitch. So he's been making these references to magic in the last 2 or 3 shows, and he's deliberately done it. I think, yeah.
So it's one of those examples of how they're learning to turn the magic into the favor of humans, because for a long time they've taken that out of our hands, except for a few initiates that refuse to let go of it. Like I refuse to let go of them. They're not taking my tool. My tool's for good, and I'm using it for good. And there's people like that doing that all over the world, actually. But for years and years and hundreds and thousands of years, it's been, smeared. They smeared the name of all that magic on purpose, so we wouldn't touch it, or we'd fear it. And so many people still do. And it's just mind-boggling how many emails I get about how I'm doing dark magic. And it's like, clearly, if you watch me, you can see I'm not.
The opposite. Can we ask one last question with that, Janine? About a year or so later, after maybe a year and a half after that happened, when Leicester won the Premier League completely out of the blue, where they shouldn't, as you've explained it, the owners of the football club died in a helicopter crash. It was very dramatic, because they actually saw footage of the helicopter of the owner leaving from the soccer stadium on the pitch, flying up into the air. The mechanical malfunction, it fell over the other side of the stadium and blew up in flames. So the owner and some of the other people that were involved in the club died.
Wow. Interesting. I'm not sure I believe they died. I feel like they got taken out of the way. They got taken, maybe even literally off planet here. Interesting. Somehow, or they used some kind of technology. So it feels like they were getting them out of harm's way, is what I get.
Okay.
I wonder if they were in on changing the trickery to be a more, for in the move. They must have known about it maybe, and they needed to get him out of the way. I feel like they were in danger.
Was that, do you feel from the cards or looking further into it, was that the dark side that didn't want Leicester to win, but then couldn't change the inevitable outcome of it because the white had changed it? Were they planning to take the owners of the club out and therefore they had to escape, or was it something that they did on their own initiative to get out of harm's way because they foresaw something maybe further down the line where they might get sacrificed, etc.?
They did it for themselves to get out of harm's way.
Okay.
Because this card's like, we got to get out of here.
Okay.
They're like, we got to leave, we got to go somewhere, we got to let this go. And then these two cards look like they didn't leave the earth plane. Like we're not getting disaster cards. So they were actually whisked off to safety. So that could have been some kind of a illusion.
Okay, witness protection.
And they could have used even off-world sort of maybe that CGI that I think they've been using in this whole movie. Okay, that comes from, like advanced technology, let's just say, that we don't know about yet. I think they're using it. Mm-hmm.
Do we think we'll see the truth of that kind of in the short term, or I'm sure eventually we'd see the complete truth of it, but does that look like something that may come up soon?
That's something they're planning on bringing out here.
Okay.
This card would be within the year, and they're looking at what's a good time. That guy's looking at something, and usually when they're holding just one, so an ace like that, it could take up to a year, but they're considering it in the next year. How are they going to bring that out for everybody?
Wow.
Yeah, I think they're going to bring a lot of stuff out when, like in time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you.
Quite amazing. So Janine, what are you focused on?
What am I thinking about and focused on? Around past life topics or just in general?
In general, because we've we both brought out some stuff.
Yep.
But
well, the only thing I've been thinking about while the whole time you guys were talking is, this is kind of more personal, but it's interesting, is when my daughter was tiny, she literally reminded, like I had a sort of an intuition that she was right out of Marie Antoinette's time. She was either Marie Antoinette herself or actually in the court of Marie Antoinette. She was obsessed with I'm a real survivor, so I could make a meal out of just give me almost a bare fridge. I'd probably make a meal for you. You know what I mean? Like I know how to put stuff together, and I'm pretty sure things like that come from past lives. I must have had to survive some really intense situations, and then other people, they'd go spend, or they wouldn't be able to make anything because they had this idea that it had to be this decadent thing, and they just couldn't put it together with what they had in front of them, right? There's people like that. She used to, when she was just little tiny, she would raise her arms for me to put her clothes on. And I'd be like, seriously? Okay, you're from another time, girl. Like it's just come right out of, and she's just like has this sense about her, and people will run around and do things for her because she has that kind of energy. But it's not because she's mean or self-centered. It's because she has some kind of charisma, like she's been super rich and famous, but from a way different time period. And when we used to go visiting, so we used to go to this place called Heritage Park in Calgary. And it was like a remade village. And there was only a few houses in this place. Most of them were like shacks. And you'd be looking at, because it's heritage for Canada. It's only 350 years. And other than that, you have the Indigenous heritage. But this was like sort of the New World heritage. So it didn't go back that far, but there was a few sort of old mansions on this recreated park, and they actually had servants' quarters. And her very favorite, even as a tiny, tiny little girl, she was very curious about the servant quarters, and then asked me, I think around age 3, where's our servant quarters and why don't we have servants? I'd be like, we're the servants this lifetime, actually. It was funny. Yeah, so I want to ask, was she Marie Antoinette? Do you guys mind?
Yeah, no, because I think they got a bum rap. That's my thought.
I agree.
Marie Antoinette, they basically,
she could have been really
them.
nice, actually.
It's kind of like what we're seeing right now with what they're doing with Putin. So Putin is basically being, portrayed as the bad guy, and not so much, so we're not going to go too much into that, but that's kind of what I'm getting right now. And they use that throughout time to basically take down and take control. So they took control of France. They got all the money, the cabal, when they took out the Marie Antoinette.
Okay, how many kids did Marie Antoinette have? She had some children, yeah?
I think so. I have to look it up.
Pretty sure she did. So it looks like my daughter was one of her children.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
so she doesn't have that trauma from being beheaded. So they basically got him out. Yeah.
Another thing though that was funny about her was, and she's getting over it now, but she never trusted humans. So if her whole family got deceived like that and then thrown to the wolves, and she watched her mom get, the things that happened to, it would make sense she wouldn't trust people at all.
Yeah.
She loves animals, but she doesn't necessarily love humans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the universe gave her to me, because I love humans so much. I love animals too, but I have a huge focus on humanity. And I think the universe was trying to help her heal from that.
Yeah.
To see that actually humans are good.
I've studied them because they were, I don't know if I had some kind of life there, because I was very attracted. I'm attracted to them as well. So something there. I haven't looked into it yet, but they were very, very beautiful, very simple. They were almost childlike, the king and the queen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure their children were too. They had their own little village, and everything was like beautiful in their village. And they had animals and stuff in their little village. And it's, they're sequestered or whatever you call that, where they were kept away from everything else.
They didn't understand.
Yeah.
What's going on.
And when that story of her, like Marie Antoinette, will let them eat cake, because cake, they didn't have the bread. So cake was another way. Instead, if you didn't have the leavening or something, you would eat cake. So she didn't understand that people are starving.
Yeah.
They can't make bread. Well, let them eat cake. So she was very simple that way.
Yeah.
And they blew it up and made it into something negative, kind of like what they're doing now with other people in the world. So they do that.
Janine, can I ask who? So someone's coming to mind. I don't want to say it's someone that I know. I don't want to say their name publicly, but can I ask, is the person I'm thinking of, were they Marie Antoinette?
The person you're thinking of?
Yeah.
I'm not getting a yes. I'm getting they were someone maybe just before the era or just after. So they were not in exactly the era. So they maybe even already gone off the earth plane before that era. And then of course they probably had future era lifetimes, but somehow they missed that one. So there's a bit of a mismatch there.
Okay.
Bit of a miss, but they could have been someone similar in history to that personality. That's maybe why you're picking it up, because this card, there's a duality there. So they might have been another personality. So if you look into history, it does tend to repeat itself with certain personality types, right?
Yeah. So that kind of phrase that Mike was describing, let them eat cake, just kind of very practical and just kind of childlike, that this person I'm thinking of is like that. Just
Like that.
kind of, yeah. But not too dissimilar from you and your kind of being in nature. And when you're describing your daughter, was she, I don't know, there seems to be quite a bit of cross-pollination with it. So
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have you done anything on Bruce? Well, actually, I'll ask this one first because it came up today. So Elon Musk, it's been revealed today that he's bought some stock in Twitter. And as I learned about that a few hours ago, I was doing some numbers on Princess Diana, and I'm wondering if Princess Diana, we might see her, if there's a connection between Princess Diana and Easter, not necessarily this Easter, maybe a future Easter. But the numbers I got on Elon Musk and buying Twitter, the Twitter stock, paralleled, they corresponded and confirmed what I was doing about Diana. So I'm just wondering, is this Elon Musk tweet purchasing of Twitter? It's also confirming a Q post from a few years ago. Is there any connection between this Elon Musk purchase, Princess Diana, and Queen Elizabeth II, and perhaps Easter? I'm just wondering if there's anything to that.
Yeah, that's pretty complex there.
Yeah. How should we distill it down? Elon Musk. So is there any connection? Is there any signaling or mild signaling between what Elon Musk has done today with Twitter? Okay. Anything to do with the Queen and Princess Diana? That's probably a simpler way to put it.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
So Janine, I was Louis the Ninth of France, Saint Louis. So that might be why I have these memories of that Marie Antoinette would have come much later, but
that's right. Yep. Cool.
So I've been to every one of the Crusades, and that was 7th and 8th Crusade. So I
you
tracked all those lifetimes. It's pretty cool.
Have you ever been in Versailles? Didn't he start?
Oh yeah. When I went to Versailles, I was like, my eyes were like, I've been here. And that was before I had any connection to any of this stuff.
It's so interesting when you go somewhere.
I know. And you're like, I've been here.
I think that definitely there's a signaling to do with Princess Diana.
Yes.
Sweet.
I'm not necessarily getting the Queen here, but that doesn't mean no, but it's very strong towards the Princess Diana, some kind of fated thing around her.
Okay.
Because that's a Cancer woman. So out of those ones you mentioned, I think she's strongly indicated here.
Okay. Anything to do with Easter around that?
Okay, is there a time frame before or after Easter we could be, you might, again, I'm getting like close, but not right on. Okay. Something close to Easter though. So I feel, and I'm getting the number 17.
Yes. Well, April 17th is Easter this year. April 9th is Easter next year. And I was working out the numbers on it, and the whole thing with I think it was Elon Musk, Twitter stock. I did it on my phone. I did it on another video earlier. But anyway, I was getting the impression that maybe not this Easter, but the following. But 17 is this Easter, so maybe this Easter. Maybe.
Yeah. And another way you could read this card is that there's still that's still a work in progress. So they might energetically still be bouncing it between two dates, but 17th was one of them. So yeah, I think that's a potential. Let's say that's a big potential that there's, but there's definitely something nodding towards Princess Diana.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
I get that she's going to come back. Now you notice they're having all these movies are coming out about Princess Diana now, And they keep portraying her as like, whacked out. I don't see her as being whacked out. I think she was very in control.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
So
Whenever-
I think that's a little
Yeah.
misdirection by the dark ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times they like to, people that they've smeared the names of,
Right.
you got to start looking into that because it's almost always the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reflex reaction. Just like, oh, they've been smeared, they must be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you looked, either of you, have you looked at anything about Bruce Willis? So this last, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, it's been announced Bruce Willis, the actor, has retired from acting due to health issues.
Oh,
So,
they're doing that to everybody. They're
yeah,
doing, like, if you look, there's at least been 3 or 4 this week, like in the last 7 days.
Yeah.
They're signaling all these people leaving out. Even like Will Smith, now they're saying now he's going to get dropped from all of these projects because of that shenanigans at the Oscars. It's like, what a great setup, right? Like, it's a perfect way to exit these guys.
yeah.
I think we're
Can
going
we look at Bruce
see
Willis?
the news really come forward on a lot of this. I think the news is slowly being taken back over by the good ones.
Yeah, I do too.
So we're going to start to see a little bit more reveal coming in.
Yeah.
It's not going to be big, but a little bit here and there. And if you have discernment, you'll catch a little of it, because they're still forcing, a negative agenda, of course, but there are slivers and sometimes big chunks of good information that's coming through now.
So Bruce Willis looks like he spent time on the dark side and didn't like it.
Huh.
So he was disappointed in what he saw, and like been to some rituals and things like that. And he's moved over to the good side, and he might even give testimony or something, I feel like, because this card can be about legal testimony. It can be about speaking up about something. I feel like he might be going to speak on behalf of and or against people that have been involved like that.
Okay.
So we
Is
got
there
it.
any-
Yeah.
Is there any connection between him? That's interesting you say that, Janine, because I was trying to just feel what, it looks like, oh yeah, he's been retired, but it's interesting because I felt there was maybe some goodness or what you're saying, what he's doing. Is there any connection? There's a bit of a rumor in the movement. Does Bill Durham, am I saying that right? Bill Durham? Is it Bill? Or am I getting confused? Durham, the prosecutor, is he ever played by Bruce Willis? Is there anything there, or that not the case? John Durham, I think it is. John Durham, not Bill Durham. That's a movie character film. Yeah. Kevin Costner, I think. John Durham. Yeah.
Okay, that looks like a yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Looks like but not exclusively. I feel like it's there. Sometimes somebody else, maybe, or maybe even the real guy.
Okay.
But sometimes when they need them, yeah. So that's interesting, because pages can be the same as aces.
Okay.
But they're smaller, so not so excited as an ace. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys look at. So I'd say occasionally with that card.
Okay. That's interesting. So if he gets retired out of acting, he may be playing John Durham.
I see the similarity. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we see a lot of actors that are basically playing parts right now. A lot of people.
Yeah.
But
Is Sean Connery been playing?
It's not just the good guys having a bad guy, but it's also the bad guys playing a good guy as well. I see both sides happening right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not just the good guys that play games against them. Of course, the bad guys been, doing this for a long time. They're very expert at it.
Yeah.
So the good guys are basically starting to play their game now and starting to push back on them hard. So it's working really good. We're being very creative on our end now.
Yeah. Did we ever look at this before about Sean Connery playing Biden when he sits down? You got James Woods when he's kind of moving around, falling down steps and stuff. But has Sean Connery ever played Biden when he's just in a more kind of stationary, just sitting?
Why do they have similar physiques?
I'm not sure. It was about a year or so ago. It was like, oh, Sean Connery sometimes on occasion playing, because Sean Connery was reported as dying during COVID. So it was like, oh, Sean Connery's actually playing Biden on occasion.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because when I saw that, it's like that doesn't feel right. It didn't feel right.
No.
He looks like he might be at the South Florida spa.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah. Sean Connery. I feel like he's safely somewhere and he's really depressed.
Oh.
I'm not really getting a yes on that. And I'm also getting, this is in the past, it's because of his involvement. Might have even been really high up in the dark cult.
I see. I can see that. Yeah. I mean, that's the way these things are going right now. We want to think that the people that are heroes in art and music and so forth are good guys, but we're finding out, unfortunately, that's not always the case.
It's my natural disposition to always think the better of them.
Exactly.
But,
yeah. Because they always played the good guy, the James Bond character. Yeah. So he was one of my heroes, and so, but I'm very open-minded about that now because I've seen so many other people that have were not so much. So that's very interesting, Janine.
What about James Woods? Is he playing Biden? That seems to be quite a common thing in the movement. Is he?
Yeah, I've definitely looked into that several times, and it was a yes. He's one of them. There's about 3 of them playing him. He's not always the one playing him. Yeah.
He's almost like come out and said it a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's alluded to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who else the other 2 are?
I can't remember, but other people will be yelling this when they see this video. They'll be like, Janine, it's
well, there's the thought that Jim Carrey's playing him on the dark side, but the same James Woods is playing him for the White Hat. So has Jim Carrey been playing him?
Playing Biden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there some knights? So you've got the British knights, but you've also got knights or equivalent around the globe. Are there some knights, people that get knighted, that are actually white hats? I'm assuming there must be a small percentage of knights that are white hats.
Yeah.
They kind of have to mix it up, don't they, just to keep legit in a way.
Yeah.
Tom, I see you as a knight in a past life.
Yes. Got a big
yes. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
and a good one, a very good one. Yeah. You were quite the warrior. My memories.
Yeah, so I'd say yes to that. I don't even have to go further with the big yes.
Cool, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because I do know a few nice sirs, so I would like to think that they're white.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's very cool.
All right, guys, we like pushed over an hour, so I always love these. I mean, we could keep coming back and do them every couple of weeks. I think this is a lot of fun. You guys have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I just had one question, one more question. Mm-hmm. Might just take 30 seconds. X Factor here in the UK, there was a guy called Will Young who won it. And I've actually bumped into him before, just in London. He's not really that prominent now, but his song was called Evergreen. They made him play the song. He won the title, kind of unexpectedly, probably a bit of maybe, voting and stuff like that. But the name of the song was Evergreen. And, that didn't really mean anything back then, but now it kind of does. And there's this thing about X Factor and the reveal and everything else. And I'm just wondering, it seems obvious, but it seemed to me like it was a signal from them, putting that out. I mean, is there any change on that? Anything else with X Factor and Evergreen?
Definitely a signal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely a signal.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Signaling towards something that was coming. We're getting strategy and the 4 of Wands. So something that was coming. So it was a future signal. It was a heads up signal.
Okay. From the dark side or the good side? Because this was about 10, 15 years ago he won it. So it seems a while ago.
It actually looks like it might be from the good side. So they must have been on to, they must have been on to it already. Surrender to off-world intelligence gave them info about. I always got that Evergreen and those kind of big ship container ships have been, the good guys have been known what they've been doing with them for a long time.
Yeah.
They can see what's on the cargoes. They know. And they took their opportunity when they did to really reveal it to everybody else. But I think they've been chasing these guys for a long time. And it looks like it was the good guys somehow.
Wow. Very cool. Thanks, Janine. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, and thanks to the English, I just saw something where the English voted who should go, Putin or Biden. Who do you think should be taken? Because there's been talk about one of those people being removed.
Yeah.
And the people of England said that the guy here in the U.S. should be the guy that goes before the other guy. So,
really?
Thank you. Oh yeah.
What poll was that? Where was that?
I don't know. I just saw it. I was just looking for it online, but I can't find it. But
Yeah.
I just did a quick search, but I heard it and somebody like put it out there. It's like legit, but
Wow.
that's interesting.
English 74, Tarot 74, Gematria 74, London 74. Very good.
Sweet. How about
Very
that?
good. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure. You guys are amazing. We had a super huge turnout live.
Right
So
on.
I'm sure everybody's going to watch this.
Yeah.
It was a great show. We revealed some really sweet stuff. So it's that's the way we go going forward. Keep revealing, keep informing each other, and that's how we win.
Awesome. Check out
Right
the
on.
Tom Numbers show below and check out Janine's new talk style
Absolutely.
format and yours as well, Michael.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Did you guys want to like promote we kind of did in the beginning. You want to promote yourselves on your sites real quick?
Yeah, I'm sending ravens. I have a new little chat show. I'm trying to do 2 a week. And that'll probably build up, but it's still my Sending Ravens channel. I'm just taking it in a little bit of a new direction.
Nice. And Tom?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm on Site Club on YouTube. So Tom Numbers Site Club. And then I have my second channel, which I just released just a few days ago, which is the Tom Numbers Show. And like I said, I've got Michael Gambon, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Matt Letitia 170, Gus Poirier, and Sven Goran Eriksson, some soccer guys. And I'll have people from music and more from showbiz and others from just really interesting fields. They don't necessarily need to be super well known, but just really fascinating people sprinkled in with the gematria. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So check out the links below. And where can they find you, Michael?
They can find me on michaelkjaco.com. I got all my links in there. So it's real simple. And this is going to be also, anyone that's listening, you'll also probably hear it on Spotify and all of those channels too, because we'll put this is a good one. So that's one I can share.
Right
Awesome.
on.
We kept it good.
All right, guys. Lots of love to you guys that watched, and lots of love, of course, to you two guys. And look forward to doing more shows with you in the future.
Good.
Awesome. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, Michael.